who do you think are the oldest people on the planet? We assume that half of you might answer China or India, while others might mention ancient Russia or uncontacted tribes in Australia. However, all these answers would be incorrect. There are about 100,000 people on Earth who have lived in almost the same form for nearly 100,000 years. They have a language, customs, and genetic code that have barely changed. It is as if they have preserved the daily life and genetics of ancient hunters into the modern era. Compared to them, the ancient Egyptians, Romans, and even the Chinese are like newborns. Who are these mysterious ancient people? You have likely heard of them because we are talking about the Bushmen. Scientists believe that they are the oldest tribe on the planet based on DNA analysis of the earliest Homo sapiens, which shows the greatest match with the Bushmen. This tribe literally opens a portal to the past. They now live in southern Africa, with the largest population in Botswana, where they have been least affected by colonization. Let's start with the basics. The term Bushman is a general name that is still debated. Dutch colonizers, in their kindness, called them various names such as Sansa, Songwa, Masarwa, and Basarwa, which translate to bush people. To this day, there is no consensus on whether this is offensive. On one hand, it is a kind of colonial nickname that can be seen as derogatory, but on the other hand, bush or grassland people are not necessarily bad labels. In 2003, there was a special conference on this issue, and tribal representatives expressed that they prefer to be called by their tribal names. However, if that is not possible, they do not find the term Bushman or its equivalent, San, offensive. So for convenience, we will continue to use the term Bushman. We go back 150,000 or even 250,000 years ago when modern humans were still in their formative years. During this period, the first historical division occurred, separating the Kaisan racial group from the common human tree and all Asians, Africans, and Europeans. Over the next 100,000 years, there would be no significant change. The Bushmen are a Kaisan racial group, making them truly unique. It is like looking in a mirror to see what our earliest ancestors looked like. As mentioned many times before, they do not look like modern Africans. The African race would appear later. In the early 20th century, it was discovered that the Bushmen were indeed different from Africans. DNA research eventually revealed that this tribe is the most genetically diverse population on the planet. Two Bushman individuals are genetically more different from each other than citizens of Zimbabwe and Norway. It is not surprising, as the people of Zimbabwe and Norway appeared later in historical terms, while the Bushmen have carried and developed their genetic code since ancient times. In fact, the Bushmen carry only one group of chromosomes and physically do not have others. Although there are several dozen of these groups, all these dozens are mutations from the purest Homo sapiens group. Geneticists even refer to the closest ancestor of all living humans today as Y chromosome Adam with the group. DNA confirms that the Bushmen are the oldest people in the world. Their language is also fascinating. The Bushmen speak in a dialect of the Kaisan language that sounds like ancestral beatboxing. According to a study in Nature magazine, this language has endured for at least the past 30,000 years. The Bushmen have lived in total isolation from the rest of humanity, preserving their unique language that uses click consonants not found anywhere else in the world. Although there are different tribes among the Bushmen, they can all understand each other, which gives scientists reason to believe that the earliest languages sounded much like modern Bushmen. Understanding the Bushmen's culture is a bit more complicated. To ensure that the Bushmen still live the same way their ancestors did tens of thousands of years ago, we need to delve deeper. They may not have a complex writing system, but they have something far more valuable. This is where scientists play a crucial role. Through scattered Bushman paintings, we can trace their history back 1,000 or even tens of thousands of years. The style, materials, and history of these paintings come together, providing clear conclusions that modern Bushmen still live the same way their ancestors did at least 30,000 years ago, and possibly up to 100,000 years or more. The big question that arises is, how did they manage to do it? During the colonial era, humans had influence in nearly every part of the planet, including the Kalahari Desert where the Bushmen live. This place was no exception, despite its barren appearance. In the past, even this desert became a resource, primarily for slavery. In this scenario, many uncontacted tribes disappeared at the hands of progressive colonizers. However, the Bushmen managed to survive. Their secret is their indifference to the outside world and their love for freedom. For centuries, despite contact from outsiders, the Bushmen did not listen to them. In Jens Bjerre's book, The Lost World of the Kalahari, there are many examples where the Bushmen tried to make contact with the outside world, only to turn back and walk into the desert. Each time they made contact, they went further and further away, until they traveled so far that it became dangerous even for trained people to venture into the deadly wilderness. The Kalahari is extremely dangerous, which is why the colonizers eventually refrained from chasing the Bushmen into the region. Although the colonial era reduced the Bushman population, they were never completely eradicated. The desert, which is deadly for humans, is home to the Bushmen. This is a place where basic equipment carried in small pouches made of antelope skin by a Bushman man includes everything needed for comfortable living: bows and arrowheads, fire-making tools, and a pair of sticks. The Bushmen are masters of survival in this harsh desert. They eat from sources we might consider unpalatable, such as lizards, snakes, caterpillars, berries, and insects. What we see as shrubbery is a banquet for the Bushmen. There is no water in the Kalahari Desert, but that does not stop the tribe members. They obtain water from local melons, certain shrub roots, leaves, and more. During the rainy season, they store water in ostrich eggs buried underground, and in the dry season, they dig wells and use tubes to pump water into the same eggs. If you want to experience life as a hunter-gatherer, learning from the Bushmen is the way to go. However, do not underestimate them. The Bushmen possess serious scientific knowledge, especially in chemistry. They actively lubricate their arrows with diamphotoxins, very dangerous poisons. This knowledge demonstrates a high level of expertise and extraordinary adaptation to their harsh environment. The Bushmen have survived the same way for thousands of years because they respect and understand their environment very well. They are a true example of human sustainability and resilience. Their story is not just about survival, but also about how to live in harmony with nature, preserving traditions, and protecting freedom in the face of changing times.